Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Travel with Terri podcast, featuring Terri Guthrie, a Dallas, Texas-based travel journalist who loves to talk about luxury family vacations, regional food and culture, national parks, historic attractions, and so much more. It's time to travel with Terri, and today we are going to be talking about some of her favorite bike rides in America. Next week, this is a part 2 series, y'all. Next week, we are going global with her bike rides. So we're going to do, where are we going, Terri? Like, where are we going in America? And then tell us what we're going to be talking about next week, because I know it really seems like you've been bike riding around the world. And I find this humorous for me because if you put me on a bike, they always say it's just like riding on a bike, just get back in the saddle kind of thing. If you put me on a bike, well, don't put me on a bicycle in Louisiana or something, because I'll end up gator stew. I will fall. But I love that you've done so, and I really love the world of cycling. It's so healthy, and it's just a really cool way of seeing the countryside and exploring, and it's wonderful. So I love this 2-part series. So let's tell us where we're going today, and then let's talk about where we're going globally next week. So where are we going today? What are the 6 places?
We have, 6 different states, but also some multiple places in the states as well. But Michigan, which I just returned from, New York, Mississippi, Texas, California, and ending with Washington, D.C.
All right. And then next month, I know you're taking us, it is next month. Your podcast will be in August next month. Yes. So next month, it's Family Fun Month next month. And hey, this month, we're closing out July. It is Parks and Recreation Month. So we're right on. We're doing all the holidays well lately, Terri. I think this is great. Next month, we're going to be doing Japan, Mexico?
Yes.
Mexico?
Yes, Japan, Mexico, Brazil, the Netherlands, England, and France.
Wow. You go, girl. Man, this is so cool. I'm excited about this. We had a dear friend, Jim Ostick, who has passed. He cycled and this is when he retired as an earth science teacher. He has done majority of the Appalachian Trail. He has done the Pacific Crest Trail, and he's written books on all of this. And then he walked across the country, loosely following the American Discovery Trail, but he cycled the perimeter of America, which is pretty huge. Yes. In his late 60s. I think that's pretty incredible.
That's impressive. That's
very impressive. But then his ticker said, "You're done now," sadly. We miss him so much. But he was always he wanted gazebos everywhere for those who were out in the sun hiking or cycling and doing things. He wanted that as also like a family way of picnicking. He just thought cycling is the way to see the countryside. And it's not so fast. Some of the places were a little faster than others, but it's better than being inside a car, and you can't walk everything, right? So what is your experience on that of cycling places?
Yes. So decades ago, Ron and I started bike riding in different locations around the world that we traveled, just because it is a totally different experience from anything else you'll experience in that area. And so in every corner of the world that I've explored, there's just something really magical about discovering a destination by bike. And as you said, it just is a totally different experience. The pace is different. The presence, you have the wind in your face. The textures are different between your feet. It's just joyful to just stumble upon hidden and unexpected treasures, there's things that you're like, I've never heard of this. I've never seen this, but this is so beautiful. And things that also you're seeing that maybe not many people may be seeing. Mm-hmm. So it makes it really special just to connect with these people, with these places, not just through sight, but through sensation, in a way of kind of traveling that trades the fast lane of life to a personal, slower pace where I feel like each route is full of surprises and it tells its own story. So this is something that we have done more than I realized. I started making out my list, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm counting up at least 20 bike trips that we've done that have just been part of, our travel. But I'm sure there's probably some that I'm forgetting. But I just think back, and it's just one of the most fun parts of our travel that we have so enjoyed throughout the years.
Do you feel like a kid when you get on a bicycle?
Yes. Uh-huh. Yeah, I think
Okay.
so. And I'm always like amazed. I'm like, oh, I remember how to do this because sometimes it
Okay.
may be a long span between them. And then something I've just learned to do in the last couple of years, which I just did a few weeks ago in Michigan, was I rode an e-bike, an electric bike. Just done that twice, but that's something new and different, and obviously helped me greatly because at my age, I was surprised. And in one day, we rode 35 miles, and it
Wow.
was like a breeze. I didn't even feel tired afterwards. I wasn't sore. Anything. The e-bike is a dream, honestly. I love them.
Okay, so do you think, I mean, I did have a bicycle as a kid. So, and then I think, like, can I have like the little training wheels just to get started? Or do you think I could probably just get on the bike and do it and just stop being a baby? Because I
Oh,
am being
yeah.
a baby.
Well, honestly, Lisa, there are different levels of these bike experiences that I've had. For example, the one I just went to in Michigan, the Leelanau Trail, would be perfect for you because it's straight and flat and there's nothing really challenging about it. Thinking of two bridges I've been on, the Golden Gate Bridge and the Brooklyn Bridge. Those were challenging. I'm not going to lie. And I would wait to do those if
Well,
I'm not
I'm
quite
not good
sure.
at
They
bridges.
were a little intense.
Good at bridges anyway, so I'll be waiting on that. But I
Yeah.
think I would still do it. Any of the rides, or any of them that you know of, part of the Rails to Trails program, which I'm a huge fan of, when we have these old railways. And what they do is that this amazing organization goes in, they raise the funds, and we've actually ended up on trails just not even knowing. So that's why I said, if you know of, there used to be a train going through, and then they make them into trails that are
Yes.
normally multi-use where people can walk. Sometimes people take their horses on these roads, which is great. And
Uh-huh.
cyclists can use. So, have you seen
Yes.
any of that?
Well, actually, the one I just did, the Leelanau Trail, actually used to be a railroad trail. So that's
Hmm.
a perfect example right there. And that's probably why it's so nice and flat. But yeah, that's what it is, a rails to trails. And I've done a walking trail like that through New York City, which is very cool.
Oh, wow, that's really cool. Yeah, I think the last one, Maryland, and then I'm gonna have to go. Yeah, like you, start making a list, and then once we like put our heads up, we're like, how many have we really done? That's insane, isn't it exciting? So
Yes.
this does this tell you as a travel writer, you've obviously been doing this, so maybe now you want to kind of put that as part of your focus as a writer and as a traveler. Like kind
Yes.
of realize that
Now
this is
that
stuck into your wheelhouse here, literally.
wheelhouse, no pun intended. Lisa, as I'm writing this and going back, I just some of our most memorable trips and memorable experiences. And I'm going to really make a point to do a bike trip everywhere I go now because I just look back at this and I'm like, I love that. And for all the reasons I stated earlier, but also um, I just feel like it's just such a unique thing, and you're getting off the beaten path basically, and you're seeing things that, like I said, most people are not going to see, and it just takes you kind of to a different time and place, and you're getting exercise too, which I'm always needing to get a little exercise because I'm always eating so well when I travel. So it's a win-win.
I want to be able to put my picnic and bottle of wine or champagne in the little basket at the front. I think that's important. Can we do
Yes,
that?
yes. Well, yes, yes. And I'll just have to tell you, my personal bike has the cute little wicker basket on the front, and my little 6-pound Yorkie rides with me around here in Texas, and she loves it. She fits perfect in the basket, and she loves to go with me on
Oh.
bike rides around our park here nearby my home.
Oh, that's good. So you get some practice in before you travel. That's a good point. Like before you go, get some practice at home and then get out there. And there's some amazing places in the country. I was just thinking like some destinations, they like the hotels have bikes for you. Palm
Yes,
Springs, a lot of a lot of the independent hotels do it. Beachside places usually go here. There's bikes here if you want to rent them, or it comes with your room kind of thing. And I always laugh. But now I'm thinking I need to kind of check this out. And the e-bike thing, that may be a great way to get back started into it. But you were just talking about Michigan, which is where you just were. And I was following you on social media with that and going, whoa, it's beautiful. Michigan is like one of the most beautiful states we have in the country. But when you were there, it seems like you got into the world of cherries. So did you cycle through any cherry orchards? Did you pull over at any of the distilleries while you were going that like to use cherries? What was going on there?
Yes. So we were on the Leelanau Peninsula, which is just north of Traverse City. You know where that is? So it's in northern Michigan. And this is the Rails to Trails bike path. So it's nice and flat. And this is like a nature's lover's delight because I've never ridden any place quite like it. It's very wooded, very agricultural, and it's just fields of corn, hay bales, old barns, fruit stands, just so scenic, and peaceful. My goodness. And it was full of, cherry orchards and also vineyards. And so you can stop and get, any of these things are really available for you to try. There's little restaurants along the way. The fruit stands I mentioned are so cute. They're, so trusting that you can just Venmo the money, or there was a little jar there with some money to get you a little basket of cherries. The grapes there are Riesling grapes, so they have little wine tasting rooms where you can try their wines, or there's a really cool restaurant there called Farm Club that just serves all the foods that they grow in that area. So there's multiple stops along the way if you desire to do that, or just stop and get a glass of cold water. I thought that was so unique and so special, and they're going to continue growing that because it's really been very popular and has, really been received well. And this is a relatively new trail. And so we were thrilled to get to go on it. Again, I was on an e-bike from Sutton's Bay is where we started. To Traverse City is 17 miles. And so we drove all the way down. We went to, we had lunch in Traverse City. On our way back, we stopped at the Farm Club and had some coffee and dessert, cherry pie, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And then but pedaled on back to Sutton's Bay. And that's where we had actually rented our bike there at Ride Leelanau is the name of that. So that is so much fun. So much fun. That was a great trip. Just a wonderful day. We just had the best day. And it was, I guess the word I would say, it was just refreshing and invigorating. It was just so nice to be out in nature and just, seeing all these beautiful orchards and vineyards and fields.
And you can pull over anytime you want, which is so wonderful about it.
Yes. You go at your own pace.
Do you have a wardrobe for this, or does it matter when you're cycling?
No, it does not matter. Whatever you want to wear, we had some nice, warm, perfect weather. Actually, I think it was like 75. I loved it. So I had on shorts, but many times I've worn like not like a pants, but a tight pants, like workout type of pants. Those are ideal, I think, for riding bikes too, if you need to be a little bit warmer.
Leelanau Peninsula, it sounds like it belongs in Hawaii. Now that would be cool for some cycling. Hawaii.
Yes, I'm sure.
I think you need to like, just saying, nudge, nudge. I think you need to go to Hawaii soon.
There you go. Yes. But I don't think I've ever rented bikes, but I'll have to do that next time.
There is in Maui, we've got a mutual friend, Sharon K. Kurtz, travel writer. She went to Maui. She goes to Maui all the time, every year. And she rode down a volcano on a bicycle. So I'm just saying that's your next thing.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Did New York City, which you're about to tell us about, and Brooklyn Bridge, then I think you can do the volcano. The actor Jeremy Allen White, who's become really famous, from Shameless and then The Bear, and he's going to be, Bruce Springsteen in the biopic coming up in October.
Uh-huh.
He is known for riding his bicycle around New York City. He's known for it, and buying flowers too. Yeah. Maybe I know too much about him. I don't know. But he's a phenomenal actor. And I mean, he's the Bear. Come on now.
Yeah.
Anyway, New York City, did you go in this? Like, what was going on about New York?
Okay. Well,
I'm scared.
And I will have to tell you too, some of these bikes are with tours, like a tour group.
Okay,
I'll
great.
explain later.
I like
Others
that.
are just like Ron and I. So the Leelanau Trail, that was Ron and I. New York City, Ron and I. So, and I probably wouldn't have done it without Ron. But we actually rented our bikes in downtown, Lower Manhattan, and navigated to the bridge. Which again, I would have to have my husband do that because he knows that area really well, and he was a great leader. So we're like right down there, almost close to the Freedom Tower. And so once we got through there, which I probably needed a drink by the time we got to the bridge, that was a little nerve-wracking. I'm not going to lie. But then starts the climb on the bridge, which it goes up. I remember huffing and puffing and thinking, oh gosh, I hope I can do this. But the nice thing about it is that it's actually a very, popular thing to do there. And of course, the Brooklyn Bridge is so iconic, and it features dedicated bike lanes, which has plenty of stops, which I appreciated. And then you have these gorgeous panoramic views looking back at Manhattan, the skyline, and you can see the Statue of Liberty, the Ellis Island. It's just beautiful. I loved that trip. I really would do it again, just because I thought that the time on the Brooklyn Bridge was so spectacular.
We did a podcast on the history of how it became a bridge. The lady that actually spearheaded it becoming a bridge, and the park and the bridge together. That was like this whole thing. There was the bridge. I shouldn't say she did the park, and how they really beautified it up to make it, able to be accessible for pedestrians, cyclists, to make it beautified for residents and tourists. And it just really needed it back in the day, and how this whole thing came to be. So I love the fact that you're out there enjoying it. That's huge.
Yeah, myself and thousands of others. Yeah, I was surprised once we got on the Brooklyn Bridge how many people were on it, and bicyclers. There were more people just walking, because I think a lot of people just walk just maybe a fourth of it or something. But we went all the way across over to Brooklyn, and then there's an area there, funny name, Dumbo. I don't know if you're familiar with that. But then there's another bridge nearby called the Manhattan Bridge, and we came back on the Manhattan Bridge, which I would not recommend.
Okay. Well, no,
I would
this
come
is
back
good.
on the Brooklyn Bridge.
Okay. No, but this is really good stuff. This is the thing, I am so thrilled that you're doing this, especially, I think of our legacy of our friend, and, he had a Facebook group called Just Bike Racks Only, and it was about going, because he wanted communities to do exactly what you're enjoying, to put these places in, and it takes a lot of money and community organizations to make this work, because you can't just be suddenly there's no road for a cyclist to be on, right, without the right, without the traffic knowing what you're doing and all of that. But having bike racks is a big deal. And he was always saying that. So in New York City, because it does seem more pedestrian and cyclist and taxi driven than people having their own cars, did you see enough bike racks and things like that where you're able to stop, tie up the bike, or on any of these?
Oh, yeah, that's never been an issue for us at all. So yeah, that's a good thing. I think there are plenty of bike racks, but I'll just tell you, just real quickly, but I have done another bike trip to New York, one that I would not recommend though. But I'll just tell you, it was in Central Park, and it was one of the craziest bike rides I've ever been on. There's just too much going on in Central Park with the pedicabs and the horse carriages and everything else. And I feel Central Park is much, much bigger than we even realized. I mean, we did the entire loop, and it was a little crazy. I remember I had somebody scream at me. I think it's the only time I had anybody scream at me, just because I don't think I was technically in the bike lane. I don't know. It's kind of confusing. And I love doing Central Park through a horse and carriage. So I'm going to stick to that.
Wow. That's the thing. I think when you have to watch, the traffic thing. This is what scares me about cities. I mean, we just drove in a city. I'm not used to being in cities. I know I do city stuff, but like when you're trying to get somewhere in the city, it becomes a different deal than just driving through the city from A to B. And I just went into a little bit of I don't know what I'm doing. I'm used to country roads and parks. What am I doing?
Right. Well,
yeah. And then
this was too. Yeah. I thought we were going to be in Central Park the entire time, but then it kind of spits you off around. There's actually several lakes in Central Park, and on the north side, I don't know. We were like on the road. Somehow our bike lane ended or something, and that's when a taxi cab driver, in his New York accent, screamed at me like, "Get out!" or something, and I was like,
Oh,
"Pissed
wow.
off."
Excuse us.
But
Oh my
once
gosh.
we
But
got
you are in
around
New
that
York.
north
You're in
end,
New York City.
yeah,
So that can happen. I'm glad you're telling people because it's don't be a beginner going there. Let's put it that way.
right, 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 yeah. No, that one, New York is not for beginners for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
But
I
when
bet there's
but
guided ones. I
I
there's
love
guided
the
tours.
Brooklyn Bridge, though. That was very
Oh,
iconic. Totally would
okay.
do that again.
Well, let's do one of the bike rides that we touched on before. And everyone, I'll link to this in the episode notes. And also, Terry's doing articles about this. So I'll have that in there too. So you can really see what she's talking about. But we talked about Ridgeland, Mississippi, a few weeks ago or a month ago. Who knows? We do these every week, right, Terry? So,
That's right.
but this is part of the Natchez Trace Parkway, and this is part of our national park system. And this is a very historic route, especially known with our indigenous people that they use this route. And you talked about the Natchez Trace bike ride. Now, to me, this would be the way I would like to do. And I have friends who have done that, the entire Natchez Trace Parkway by bicycle. And to
Hmm.
me, that sounds like an epic thing to do. And tell us about your experience on that.
Well, it was fantastic. Right up front, I want to tell you that you can get bikes for free there at Visit Ridgeland, which is right there at the Renaissance off of Interstate 55. So if you just go to their nice visitor center, they have bikes that you can borrow. So at no cost. Then they're like one block from the Natchez Parkway. So it's really, really convenient. So the Natchez Trace Parkway, as we talked about before, it is so beautiful, so peaceful, and there's so many fun stops along the way. But you have to exit off, to do anything because it's just the Natchez Trace Parkway is strictly a parkway, 2 lanes, very wooded, and then you can exit off and go to like the Cypress Swamp or the Barnett Reservoir. They have so many different interpretive signs because that is Choctaw country and really interesting historical markers everywhere. But if you go down the Natchez Parkway, just know that you can go 8, 25, 50, 62, 100 miles or more. So they've got it lined up perfectly for cycling. And that's a really, really fun experience. And I loved it. And I just think how cool of Richland to provide these bikes. I'm telling you, a lot of my people in Mississippi did not know this. So they're all jumping on board with this because Richland actually is very bike focused. They have lots of bike trails around there besides the Natchez Trace Parkway.
Well, you know what? This also, I mean, if you look at it, helps the community in that you're not having a traffic congestion. You don't have a parking issue, and it's healthier for your, air and, arguing over, cars versus e-cars and whatever. Now we can look at a bike or an e-bike instead, which is a little lighter on the environment. It's
And I
cleaner
love
for the
how
air.
Explore Richland is just really encouraging that. So that's a big feather in their hat, I think.
Yeah, I think that they're being a leader in this. And
Yes, I do
also
too. I do too. Go
promoting
Richland.
the parkway, for sure. That's fantastic. Now, tell us a little bit about Texas. You did Austin and went to Lady Bird Johnson Lake. I'm sorry, but I think Lady Bird Johnson is one of the most important women in the world.
Yes,
She was the
love her
first
legacy.
woman to own radio stations in the country. Did you know that?
Oh, wow.
Yes, she was a little media mogul.
I didn't know that.
Anyway, I'll detour. So, look, I'm being all bikey here. So I
Yes.
will get back on track and let you tell us about Lady Bird Johnson Lake. And you went to Austin's Town Lake. So they have a town. I didn't know that.
Well, let me clarify that because Town Lake is now Lady Bird Lake.
Okay.
Renamed it. Yep. So I always think of it as Town Lake, but it has been officially changed as Lady Bird Lake now, which I love. And think that this is one of the most beautiful downtown areas. I love Austin. I'm a huge fan of Austin anyway, and they have a beautiful, very modern skyline. And this is just south of Austin. So I mean, not like just like right there, south of the city is what I'm saying. And and there is Lady Bird Lake. And then there's also a big natural swimming hole over there, Barton Springs. There's an old fashioned swimming hole, but the view when you ride around this whole area is just gorgeous. Some of it's in the sun that's, completely open. Other areas is very shaded, is areas are you're riding on like a little bridge thing. I can't think of what you call it, but you're riding over the water on these little platform bridge things that are, specifically for bikers and pedestrians, and lots of areas to stop and have a picnic. I think I
Nice.
have a picture of me with Ron, and I always do that. We'll get a picnic lunch and take it with us. We have ridden this numerous times. It's one of our favorites. And I can't tell you how pretty the water is. You will see so many paddle boarders and kayakers, and they don't have motorboats on this lake. And,
Nice.
lots and lots of turtles, and it is just so pretty. It is so pretty. It's just one of my very favorites. We've just enjoyed it so much, and just a really vibrant blend of nature and recreation, and just you're right there in the heart of Austin. So I love it. And Lisa, I couldn't help but think of you because one of our stops we always have to stop and get a picture of, because my husband is a huge Stevie Ray Vaughan fan, and they have this life-size statue of Stevie Ray Vaughan with the Austin skyline in the background. And so we always have to get Ron's picture made by Stevie Ray.
Stevie Ray. And you know who really loves Stevie Ray Vaughan? My mama, Nancy.
Oh, is that right? Oh.
She just walked by giving a thumbs up because she'll hear something when we're traveling on the road, and she goes, "Put the Stevie on. He's the best." Yes. So yeah, one of my favorite things about Austin that I haven't experienced, but it's one of my favorite things from everyone telling me about it and doing interviews, is that bats happen at a bridge. And we had that in Tucson. When we lived in Tucson, bats would come out under bridges, and it was so cool. And so it seems like Austin has the same thing, and you could go bicycle with bats.
Yes, you could. That's a cute name right there, bicycle with bats. But yes, right over the Lady Bird Lake is Congress Avenue Bridge, and that's where the bats are. I have been kayaking underneath that bridge, and you can see the bats up under the bridge. And of course, at dusk, they fly out. They say there's like 1.5 million of them take flight every night, and it's quite an iconic Austin spectacle.
It's amazing. I love it. I want to go there and I want to experience it. And I know there's a festival that happens there too. But we're talking about bridges. So this leads me to Golden Gate Bridge, Sausalito area, which Nancy and I know very well, have traveled there, visited there, been there, done that, but not done what you've done. You did the cycling. And so we can say we've been there, done that, but not really all the way. And this is all part of the Golden Gate National Recreation Area, which is amazing. So you're going from San Francisco into Marin County from this area. So tell us a little bit about that, because that's a bridge. That's a big bridge.
It's a big bridge. You know, how epic is the Golden Gate Bridge? So I have to tell you, the first time we did this, it was when my husband, Ron, was turning 40. And so we were in San Francisco with our daughters, and I can't remember how old they were, but I'm thinking maybe like in second and fourth grade, third and fifth, something like that. And I came up with this idea of us riding over the Golden Gate Bridge. I thought that would be so cool. I really didn't know it was such a thing. It is. And so, yeah, you start at where we started, we actually went through Golden Gate Park, which was a pretty ride in itself, that whole area. And of course, San Francisco is so scenic. And then this is what I didn't realize. I had been across the Golden Gate Bridge, but I never had been to like the base of it. But there at the base of it, looking up, and so I think you're at that Fort Point area, looking up, it was like, just look vertical. In fact, I'm almost positive I had to get off my bike and push it that first time. That was quite a hike to get up to the bridge from the water level, from the, right there at the bay. So once we got there, then I was so happy to see that, they have, again, just like the Brooklyn Bridge, they have the bike and pedestrian lanes. It's very, very, very busy. I mean, the cars are just like zoom.
Yep.
Just so
Even
many.
though it's San Francisco, it is.
Was a little more stressful than I had imagined. And I remember I was wanting to take pictures of our daughters up there, and they were like, hurry, hurry, get off. I remember Kelsey said, if I fall to the left, I die. And if I fall to the right, I die. Because she was like either falling into
Nice.
traffic or falling off the bridge. And I was like, you're not going to fall off. I think we were all
It
having a
feels
little
like it.
anxiety. So, and it's very windy, very, very windy up there. But anyway, it was so cool. Like, my husband and I did that again maybe about 5 years ago, and just had a wonderful experience. And this is what's fun. So you have a destination to get to, which was Sausalito, which is on the other side of the bridge. Now, mind you, when you come off the bridge, you are going, again, it's just vertical, getting back down. And so you're going way, way, way down the hill and going pretty, you have to really keep your brakes on and everything. And then traveling over to Sausalito was a breeze. And we knew this in advance, but there again, I thought I had an original idea. And it was so funny because you can take the ferry once you've, visited Sausalito, which you want to do, take time there and have a meal or ice cream or whatever. You get on the ferry and it takes you back across the bay to San Francisco. And my husband and I had to crack up laughing when we got on the ferry the first time, because there must have been 250 bikes. So my idea was hardly original at all. And I was like, no, this is a thing, but it's so funny because I, honest to God, had not ever read it or heard of anybody doing it. I just came up with this idea on my own, but it was not original, I guess. So much fun. That's a highlight of some of my travels in San Francisco, is riding over the Golden Gate Bridge. And probably first time was in my 40s. Second time I was probably 60. So there you go.
Well, when you cycled across it, did you think about the actual engineering, the incredible engineering feat that made this happen? Actually building that is just such a huge thing. From what I've, read about and done podcasts on actually before, is about how engineers have a ring. They have like a pinky ring, like a promise of no one gets injured, no one, all of that. And we know there's issues with bridges, so I'm weird. And whenever I go over a bridge, I'm like, who built this? Were they sober?
Yeah. Well, and my husband is actually an engineer, so he's always pointing out things. And of course, that is an engineering feat, that bridge is. And I've seen documentaries on it, which is so fascinating. I think one of the fun facts about the Golden Gate Bridge that sticks out in my mind, and I learned this through a documentary, is that they're constantly painting it. And they start on one end. By the time they get to the other end, they go back to the other. They start again. It is a consistent thing, always painting it and just checking it to be sure it's in good repair.
And it's going to be interesting with the weather, because San Francisco has always got, like, you've got the fog coming in, or it's like cold, and then it's suddenly you get sunshine, you're like, yay. And then it's like, yeah, I'm here for 2 hours. Bye-bye. So cycling, your body temperature is going up, but then you may need to have like a cardigan or something.
Oh yeah. Yes, definitely. We had jackets on and pants. Yeah, because San Francisco is actually pretty cool, and especially when you're on the bridge, you're up in the air, you're over the water, you've got that breeze. So that is a place I think you would most definitely want to have on some type of pants, cycling pants, and a jacket. Yeah, absolutely.
This is a fashion report by Terri. Yeah. Well, and wear something bright so people can see you. I know that's a thing.
Good idea.
I think this is so important what you're talking about, because, it is about how does traffic see cyclists? And when people make these are your bike paths, it's so important. That's what I was talking about at the beginning of this, this show is, this is a very important thing when a city decides, okay, we're going to make sure cyclists have a clear path. And that way the drivers know, and everybody needs to be in acknowledgement, but like even driving across the Golden Gate Bridge, man, you could be in the wrong lane and mess up, which I've done.
Right. Yeah. You have to be paying attention for sure. And I think that's what my girls didn't like.
I ended up in San Jose almost. Oh no, don't even start me on what I've done. And I know San Francisco very well now. Let's just put it that way. I just keep going around in circles until I know the entire city. That's what happens to me in every city. But then once you know, it's cool. Right. One-way streets get people all messed up,
Oh, yes, they do.
I just wish they'd stop it.
I was going to tell you that, speaking of one-way streets. I did 2 other bike rides in California, and I'm thinking of the one in Santa Barbara, which was my first time to ever use an electric bike. But we were on some one-way streets there because we rode our bikes from Santa Barbara to Montecito, and that is a beautiful and very scenic ride as well. But you're there again, this is just us by ourselves, and you're kind of on like a wide sidewalk, but sometimes you have to get on the streets and the one-way streets. So yeah, that can get a little tricky, and you really have to pay attention. And then we did bike rides once, and when we were in Los Angeles at Santa Monica Pier, we got bikes there and rode. This is a great one. This doesn't take real long, so you can make it as long or as short as you want, but just get on that big path that goes through all the beaches there. We just did Santa Monica and then rode and did all of Venice Beach, which is right next door. Which is, I'm stopping and taking pictures constantly because that is a serious people watching area.
I love Venice Beach. We used to go to Venice Beach all the time when we lived in San Diego. We once, anyway, that's a whole other story. But we did actually take a group of veterinarian students. When we lived in San Diego, we went into the mountains in Julian, where we ended up living. But we went to the grape stomp, and we met all these students in the wine barrel. We were stomping grapes. And anyway, we pelted someone coming into the barrel because she was snotty. And she was just, look at me. And she dropped her glass into the barrel, which was like a no-no. You don't put, and then she ruined the rules, and then everything became ruled. Had to have rules, we were all just being normal. Anyway, we became friends with them and hung out all day. And they were like, well, we come here to America every year. What can we do? Well, they followed us home to San Diego. They spent the night, and the first thing in the morning, like really early, we took them to Venice Beach, and we spent the day in Venice Beach, and that's how we met our good friends Johnny Mastro and the Mama's Boys blues band that are now in New Orleans. Anyway, we would do this a lot. We would do this, drive over, hang out in Venice Beach because of the people watching, but also the music inside the bars was killer. Anyway, they went to Venice Beach. And they had been to New York City, they had been in Miami, they had done all the main cities. And they just turned to us and said, you made us the best trip we've ever had to America was this day. And the grape stomp, because they were trying to find something unique and different. And between the grape stomp in a tiny little mountain town in San Diego, I mean, tiny, they just were like floored. But Venice Beach they're like, all right, we finally found something really, really cool. They loved coming here, but it was that trip for them after 4 or 5 years.
There's been so many
TV
shows
cool.
and movies.
That's the people watching. And so on a bicycle, I mean, I've never cycled it, but I've seen people skateboard. The guy from Fast Times at Richmond High with the turban was there when we were there. The umbrella lady, I don't know who you've seen out there. Did you see the umbrella lady? I don't know if you wanted to see her.
Yeah, the skateboarding is a real big deal. I loved watching that, but yeah, it's just, and there's a nice pier there in Venice Beach too. Yeah, lots of fun, little eclectic restaurants and bars, like you mentioned. It's a very seedy, kind of gritty area, but very interesting and definitely worth checking out.
They do have canals, and they have the Muscle Men, so.
The Muscle Men Beach.
Get the Muscle Men. All right, so Let's go to D.C. We'll go to the nation's capital here, Washington, D.C., and you did the National Mall Loop, and that's really I know you love national park units like you, and so this is like you did it. You did the monuments.
Yes. Now, this is one of our bike trips this was a tour. So we were with a bike group, and we started out right over by the Museum of the Spy, which I haven't been to. I hear it's great, but it's a spy museum. And so they gave us this whole fantastic monument bike tour that I cannot recommend enough. I loved it because you could, first of all, it was springtime. Let me back up. Springtime, cherry blossoms, trees were blooming. Could not have been more beautiful. The temperature was perfect. It was just a, pinch me moment type of thing. And seeing all of these fantastic national monuments and landmarks in this setting, it was just dreamy. I love Washington, D.C., and I just would highly recommend this if you go to that area. But yeah, our group, we started out at the Jefferson Memorial. And when we kind of get together, when we stop, he would tell us, our guide would tell us all about it, all the highlights of it. And then we get off our bikes and then everybody goes and just kind of, it's like, hey, you've got 15, 20 minutes, go look around, take pictures, do whatever. And we meet back with our group and then on to the next one. And we hit them all. And it was a great way to see all these fantastic historical places. I loved it. I know Ron did too. It was something really, really special. And the National Mall Loop, it's flat and bike-friendly paths, connecting all of the landmarks. And then the tidal basin area where all that water is so, so pretty. But this was such a dynamic way to see Washington, D.C. and just explore the capital's grandeur, the history, the architecture. There's so many highlights here. It was a day for the record books. I'll say like that. I love that Washington, D.C. bike tour.
And you could see, the Kennedy Center and places like that from there too.
Yes. Wow. And there's many different tours you can take. And guess what? They do one at night as well. Now, we didn't do the night one, but those monuments are just spectacular when they're illuminated at night.
See the one of Martin Luther King Jr.
Yes.
I want to see that. And then,
yes,
you've got, Abraham Lincoln and, the monuments there and there's a lot of war memorials there, isn't there too?
Yes. Yes. We went to those as well. We went to all of them. Next time I go, I think I'm going to do the bike tour at night. In fact, let me think. I was going to say I haven't ever done a bike tour at night, but the one we did in Paris, which we'll talk about next time, it was in the afternoon and went through the evening. So at night, it's fun. It's a totally different experience, but I would certainly recommend it.
Well, there she gave you all a little snippet of what's going to come next week. So thank you so much, Terri. I feel like I need to get back on my bicycle. I don't have one, but I do hear I Want to Ride My Bicycle by Queen playing in the back of my head now. So I don't know what Stevie Ray Vaughan will think of that, but I think he'd do a good part of that. I think he'd like Brian May, the guitarist, too, from Queen. But anyway, Thank you so much. Always fun having you on the show. Everyone, Terri is here every first Tuesday at 9 a.m. Central Time, so stay tuned for next week where she takes us around the world from Mexico to France. Stay tuned. Thanks, Terri.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks for joining us here on Big Blend Radio's Travel with Terri podcast. You can follow Terri's adventures at travelwithterri.net, and that's Terri with an I, not a Y. Follow us here at bigblendradio.com. Happy travels!